Welcome to the City. I'm Anthony Wilson, the Public Information Officer for the City of San Angelo. And joining us today is James Flores, our newly promoted Assistant Director of Neighborhood and Family Services. James, thanks for being with us.
You bet. Thank you for having me.
Now, as I mentioned, you are newly promoted into your new position as the Assistant Director, the number 2 man in the Department of Neighborhood and Family Services. Previously, you were the Code Compliance Manager, so now you're in charge not only of code compliance, but of our Animal Services Division. And you've instituted a lot of changes since taking over Animal Services. In a nutshell, what are you trying to accomplish there?
Well, you know, we got a long ways to go, so there's still the institution going on daily. We've kind of broke it down into a workable, manageable type of situation. I streamlined a lot of the admin portions to help the citizens when they are looking to adopt an animal. From the admin into the processing and into the medication and everything else for the animals that we serve. So we have instituted a ton of stuff. Basically, the admin has gotten quicker. We've eliminated a lot of the paperwork that was a hindrance per se, I guess, or it was time consuming for both the citizen and or the admin person to simply adopt an animal. It was a 5-page process. Today it's a 1-page. So I think that's helped us out tremendously. We've focused more on the admin learning everybody's role. So if one is out, there's not a hiccup in the process for that day. That seems to be one of the biggest things is the girls are learning each and everybody's roles, from dispatching to paperwork to fees to everything else that's associated with the admin portion. And then I moved in April. I moved into the back to rescue the processing portion of our daily task. We process immediately. Prior to, we were having up to 72, 84 hours of wait for an animal to get processed, and it just slowed everything down, backed up the shelter as a whole. Today we are processing immediately. That is an intake process that we diagnose the animal with whatever situation it may have. We medicate instantaneously. We process him through the paperwork so that we give him a fair opportunity to get adopted at the end of the day.
Now, speaking of adoption, since you've taken over, no dog or no adoptable dog or cat has been euthanized. That's a big change for the animal shelter. How have you managed to accomplish that?
It's been tough when you and for clarification, April 9th is about the time that we started that because April 1 I got into the back portion of the shelter, which is where unfortunately that process does take place or did take place. But yes, we have not euthanized an adoptable animal. An adoptable animal is not vicious. It's not rabid. It's healthy. It's a good partner waiting for a family to love it. So that's the biggest difference. Unhealthy animals are not adoptable. Vicious animals are not adoptable. Rabid animals aren't adoptable. But what we've done, we've kind of paid for that type of change because it did cause a little bit of chaos. When you don't euthanize at all, you start busting at the seams as a shelter. But the beauty is we have resurrected tons of relationships with local rescues, out-of-town rescues. Tons of volunteer efforts have been resurrected that at one time were kind of moot and kind of stagnant for whatever reason. And with their help and their involvement, we officially can say that since April 9th, we have not euthanized an adoptable animal. Last week was our first panel. Before anything does get euthanized in the adoptable category, I've mandated a panel to meet, which consists of rescues, some animal control board members, definitely some key staffers that deal with these animals all day. We will mandate a meeting, a panel discussion prior to dealing with that animal's future. And I proudly say that last Wednesday was our first one, and 19 candidates were up for euthanization and 0 were euthanized. They were all adopted and homes were found. So we're getting back into a more leaner, meaner shelter, and since we've learned some of the mistakes in implementing this stuff, I think that the future is just going to be very positive for that aspect.
And it is worth noting that one of the changes that you've made is before you make a decision to euthanize an animal, you're going to get an adoptable animal. You're going to give the rescue groups a chance to adopt that animal and find a home for it.
Absolutely. We met at about 12 o'clock. I think it lasted till about 1:30 last Wednesday. And by 8 a.m. the next morning, every 19 animals, adoptable animals, were accounted for in the adoption world. So it was a big victory. It just was proof to me that this is how we need to conduct business.
You've also spent a lot of time visiting and studying and researching animal shelters in other communities. What have you found and learned in other places that you think can be adopted here in San Angelo?
It's been an array of things that we learned. Sometimes it's information overload at its finest. So good thing I can write fast, because when we do these day trips all the way to Arlington and back, you only have about 2 hours to really divulge into a successful organization. But the beauty of it is when I come back, there's already emails letting me know about reminders or stuff. It's a very, the animal business is a very unique business in the fact that there's some strong supporters out there. So we did surround ourselves recently from day one, studying shelters that do have processes in place that make sense and are very successful. And what we found, Anthony, was a lot of common sense. There was just a ton of common sense that we were missing in our approach locally versus Odessa, versus Arlington, versus Killeen, versus Waco, versus McClellan County. Just tons of things. I would need more than the time that we have to discuss here, but some of the most important things were simple disinfectings, cross-contamination efforts that we were doing ourselves, inadvertently spreading something so simple as cough from one animal to another. Now protocols are in place where we don't have cross-contamination. We are definitely decontaminating as a staff prior to dealing with another animal. Very, very basic common sense things, all the way up to grand things that involve the citizenry of the community, because there is a ton of people that are willing to give time, give effort, even give money to a cause. And so our goal was to implement all the stuff that we felt was common sense first and foremost, because I think that was the easiest thing to approach, and then started getting into some seriousness, which we're dealing with a partner in Odessa right now who's running a very successful shelter. We're mimicking a lot of their ideas. Arlington, top-notch shelter, we're mimicking a lot of their ideas. So there's constant contact between me and the two people that run those two shelters, because those were the two that stuck out in my mind of common sense and solid programs and processes in place.
Within our organization, city government, you are known as one of the best providers of customer service. And you mentioned a little bit earlier that one of the things that you've tried to do to improve customer service is reduce the paper load on someone who's wanting to adopt a dog. What are some other things that you're trying to do in order to improve the customer service at the animal shelter?
Well, again, that is a key of mine that I take to heart, whether it was code compliance or whether it's animal services or whether it's any other department that I might lend a hand to. We first and foremost are our city employees, and the citizens are our boss, and I firmly believe that. And the key to that is surround yourself with staff that buy into that same mission. There is sometimes that system is not bought into, but first and foremost, if you tackle your customer service issues and you provide a great customer service approach to your citizens, the rest of our job just becomes easier, more manageable. But some of the things that we've implemented there were the streamlining of paperwork from the admin standpoint. One of the biggest keys we're doing is we're cross-training our animal control officers with customer service aspects. Unfortunately, they get so involved with sometimes gruesome things, euthanizations out in the field, dogs that got run over, vicious animals. Their day can get very consumed with negativity per se, and sometimes they don't realize they are still there to provide customer service, from the bite report, from the bite victim, from the person that owns the bite animal. So we're implementing right now some processes in place that we're going to get these guys trained to better serve the community that they're serving, along with providing safety, health, and welfare for the animals. So very nice balance. With animals, we meet people. With animals, we're constantly in people's backyards. With animals, we're constantly in the public sector. So a perfect opportunity for those guys to just get a little better on their customer service. And we've got some local groups that are going to help us with providing better customer service from an animal control staff point. And then internally, it's just, again, it goes back to common sense. This person needs to be treated a little better than not when they have lost a loved one in the form of losing a dog. So we have to be more cognizant of their emotions and just be there. Sometimes they just need to speak to us about a situation. And I'm confident that our customer service will only get better with everything that we're trying to implement.
Now, one of the things I know that you're very interested in is making the animal shelter a more inviting place to visit. What are you doing in order to make that happen?
Well, you know, with Neighborhood and Family Services, we seem to paint every year. For the last 8 years, we go out to neighborhoods and we do what's called a blitz. And when I was over there 1st of March, I decided, well, you know, the blitz is coming up. Let's blitz our own place here. So we did something so simple as paint. We've got some very beautiful pastel colors, some cool warming blues, because unfortunately there is a time when a person does bring us their old loved one, and it's time for them to say goodbye. So colors was a big thing for me, and it is a little more inviting. Some may be a little too loud for some folks, but at the end of the day, we want smiles, we want hugs, and these colors provide that. They provide warmth, and they provide joy, and they provide help with sorrow as well. So we have repainted the interior of the building. We're going to move that into the general population for the animals as well. Right now, they stare at a dull white wall. And for some of these guys that are in there, 20, 30, 40 days, we want to make it inviting for our population as well, our general population in the form of animals and cats. So big movement is going on with repainting the interior portion of that place. Some bigger items that are coming are going to be exterior items, in the form of maybe buildings and outdoor kennels and more of a park environment with our track that we just recently created. It's a huge track, a walking track. So lots of things are coming. I would love to talk about it in 6-8 months from now just to see what progress we've made. But right now we're focusing on colors.
We've been talking with our Assistant Director of Neighborhood and Family Services, James Flores. We'll continue this conversation in just a moment. But first, we're going to take a look at one of the special advocates for the animal shelter and a remarkable achievement that he recently made. Speaking, of course, of Daniel Sapezi. Daniel Sapezi made a difference on the day of October 25th. His Make a Difference Day project resulted in 57 unwanted pets from the San Angelo Animal Shelter finding their forever homes. Daniel raised nearly $4,500 in contributions to underwrite the adoption cost for 53 dogs and 4 cats. Soon, his efforts may touch the lives of thousands more abandoned animals.
It was very exciting. I didn't have any words to explain what I was feeling. At the time, I was just thinking about helping animals. I wasn't thinking about if I would win the prize or...
Daniel has been chosen as one of 14 recipients nationwide who will receive a $10,000 grant from USA Today to further their charitable work. He'll be recognized at an awards event May 6th in Washington, D.C. The Central High School sophomore and his family own 3 rescue dogs, 2 of them adopted from the animal shelter. The 16-year-old is a frequent shelter volunteer who participates in Saturday morning walks with the facility's canine charges. He was inspired to pursue a Make a Difference Day project by his older sister, who previously spearheaded an effort to clean a local park.
It is so great that he was able to make that big of a difference and win that prize and go on to make even more of a difference in the animal shelter.
Daniel has agreed to use his prize money to improve the shelter. He, his family, and shelter staff are still considering how to make the best possible use of the funds.
But what we do have is a promise to the Sapezis that they will be an integral part of that decision. So very exciting. I mean, just amazing.
For SATV, I'm Anthony Wilson. Welcome back to the city. We are continuing our conversation with our Assistant Director of Neighborhood and Family Services, James Flores, who, as part of his promotion, now overseeing our Animal Services Division, which operates the animal shelter. James, when we were talking about the animal shelter, you were talking about ways that you're going to make it more inviting, and one of the things that you mentioned was some new facilities. I know that you're aiming to build an animal processing center at the shelter. What purpose would a facility like that serve?
Well, the biggest purpose it would serve is it would allow us to separate sickness from health. Right now in our current design, although there is rooms or there is halls to separate that type of environment, it's just not feasible. What our goal is and what our vision is an intake room, a building of such, 40 by 50 metal building that intakes every single animal the shelter receives, so that we can vet that animal for a couple of days, verify whether or not it's got kennel cough, or if it's healthy, or if it's needing whatever type of medication that it might need prior to bringing him into the general population. Big need. Most of your shelters that are successful in that capacity, or in any capacity, do have a true separator of health and sickness. And although we do right now to a certain degree, it's nowhere near what this could bring to the table. What it would allow us to do is really spend quality of time with the animal in a confined setting versus him just being processed and immediately sent out to general population and possibly contaminating other healthy animals that are in there. A, and B, it would allow an area for us to know and be able to publicize via a telemonitor up front whether or not your animal is in the shelter. Because right now that is a big item for us to deal with on a daily basis from a customer service standpoint, is people are coming in and we're using manpower and man hours to walk the rows and see if that person's animal is in there. The intake room would allow us to have a big monitor up front where you walk in and it's uploaded every 5-10 minutes and it's just a constant scroll. That would help us deal with the customer that's adopting, or deal with the person that is needing to pay to redeem their animal or something like that. So it would be a huge addition, and that is a big goal of ours. It's a realistic goal that we think we're going to make happen. So I'm looking forward to seeing the construction of that building take place.
You mentioned about some outdoor kennels, and as part of that process, one of the changes that you're soon to institute is you're not going to allow people simply to drop off their animals
Correct.
in an outside pen in the dark of night because you're concerned that there's some irresponsible dropping off of animals during that time. Talk a little bit about that change and why you think that's necessary.
Absolutely. Again, we're simply just trying to incorporate successes. And everybody that I have visited or called does not have a drop-off side kennel. Because irresponsibility does take over that cage, and it causes havoc for staff. It causes havoc for the animals. It's simply just not utilized anywhere else in the successful shelter arenas. The process for us will be we are going to close those side kennels, and we're going to do it within the next 2 weeks. We'll publicize it, get that out to the citizenry, and it will be an illegal activity via a camera system that's going to be set up that will either get you on camera or get your license plate on camera, but it will be an illegal activity. We still want a guilt-free surrender, and we will provide you that service from hours of operation. We have no problem doing that. We feel that that's a big necessity for the citizenry, not only for them, because people do pick up a stray dog on the side of the road, and that's great. And if they're not going to be able to care for it, then we need to be there for that animal. But it needs to be done during operational hours, not at the middle of the night. So we are closing those cages. We will get it publicized and advertised as soon as possible, and give people about 2 weeks' notice to fulfill whatever they need to fulfill from that capacity, because they will be closed. But along with that, outdoor kennels are going to provide extra space for the shelter. That is much needed. We average about 250 to 330 animals a month at any given day. And what I would like to incorporate is an outdoor facility, simply for the fact that we're coming into that time of season where people like to be outdoors. The animals love to be outdoors right now. If it wasn't for volunteers and if it wasn't for certain staff doing it on their own, my animals don't see the light of day because of the way the building was structured. So here pretty soon with outdoor kennels, every animal will be outside 2, 3, 4 hours, 5 hours a day. For recreation purposes, for sunlight, for vitamin D, for just nature, because right now they are institutionalized for the time that they're there, and I see a big problem with that. So outdoor kennels are going to be huge. They're also going to be a huge factor in adoptions. You won't have to make a decision, in a inside kennel row. You'll be able to go outside, take this animal with you, bring your kids, socialize with it, and we will have adoption events that relate to the structure and the logistics of the outdoor kennels. We will have $5 adoptions, $10 adoptions, $15 adoptions, and we can do that with this outdoor facility because we can block off certain areas so the citizens can come in and know that if there's an animal that you want and you can't afford the $85 adoption process, we'll have some adoption animals available for people with lesser than higher incomes. So I'm looking real forward to the outdoor kennels, mainly for the vitamin D and the nature that these animals are going to get to be a part of versus right now.
And as part of the changes in regards to the surrender process, unless there are extenuating circumstances, if someone surrenders a dog to the shelter during your operating hours, that person will then be ineligible to adopt another animal from the shelter in the future, correct?
Absolutely. With surrenders, we are IDing now. It is a mandatory issue that I've implemented, and it's simply just for eliminating irresponsibility. If you are a responsible surrenderer, we're going to know that. We're going to see it. We're going to hear it. We're going to know it. If you're irresponsible, you don't need to be adopting an animal if you've surrendered one because it didn't work out for you. These are not toys. They don't break. They do break, but they're items that are 14, 15, 20-year commitments. So we're just trying to help ensure that we are dealing with responsible owners and responsible pet adopters.
You mentioned about your volunteers, and you've done a lot to try to beef up the opportunities for volunteers who want to be engaged in the animal shelter and with the animals. Talk a little bit about what you've done thus far and some other opportunities that you foresee on the horizon.
Well, as I said earlier, right now we're in the resurrecting stage with a lot of relationships, and that's a good thing. I'm glad. I love resurrecting relationships for whatever reason that don't no longer exist. But one thing San Angelo Shelter is blessed with is a huge volunteer base. The outcry has been very, very positive. Unfortunately, right now, as I'm working to fix the shelter, some of the volunteer efforts have been postponed and stopped just so that I can get a grip on where we're broken as a shelter, because we are broken. I have voiced that since day one. We're a lot better off than we were March 1st, but we're still broken. We still got items to fill, and these guys have really been a key factor in helping me fix the brokenness of the shelter in the simple fact that they offer to clean kennels, they mop the floors, they do things that I can bring my staff in and hold meetings for and get my staff up to par as far as new processes and protocols. But we are very blessed with the volunteer base that we have here, and always have been. Even in code compliance, I've utilized tons of volunteers. So right now, our effort is not 100% where we want it to be. It's probably about 50% where we want it to be. Excuse me. But in reality, we have a lot of things coming that are going to implement our volunteer base. From dog walking to laundry to games to face painting to Saturday events with barbecues and live music and the radio stations have offered to come out and do what's it called?
The remotes?
Yep, the remotes. So the sky's the limit. And with this base, their energy, their enthusiasm, I'm just, I'm looking so forward to it, to get with these people and utilize their ideas. Because at the end of the day, I got to run a shelter, but if I run it with common sense and some great ideas, it's going to be a success.
In June, you're going to participate in a nationwide effort that's called Just One Day, and during that day, shelters make a promise not to euthanize any animals. What do you have planned for that day?
It's going to be a big day. We're going to hopefully merge with locally with Paul's. We're looking at doing an outdoor event, possibly bring out all the animals. Again, with the volunteer base that I have, there's no reason I can't have 300 animals on our big 10-acre spread that we have. We're very blessed to not be landlocked. So we're looking forward to that day. We're looking forward to doing that every day in reality. Unfortunately, there's going to be days that's not going to be had, but that day in particular, we're looking at doing some type of hot dog event, some type of dog race event, some type of community field event at the shelter the entire day, just to sell the fact that today is a National No-Kill Day, and we're going to honor that and we're going to respect that. So any ideas from this point forward, if anybody's out there that wants to be a part of this or wants to help with this, now's the time to start talking about it, because that day will be here pretty quick.
We've been talking with James Flores. He is the Assistant Director of Neighborhood and Family Services, and we hope you'll join us for the next episode of The City.